fighting, this is what it actually means. The moment you lift your chicken off the ground, her body registers something close to the final seconds of a predator's grip. And if she goes still in your arms instead of fighting that, it's not because she's calm. It's because she's actively overriding one of the oldest survival instincts she has. There's a hidden physiological story behind that stillness, one where two people can hold the exact same hen, look identically calm from the outside, and be experiencing something completely different on the inside. If you think calm and trusting always look the same, wait until you see what her heart rate, her wings, and even where she tucks her head are actually revealing underneath that stillness. So what is her body really doing when she goes still in your arms instead of struggling? How do you tell the difference between a chicken who's genuinely calm and one who's simply frozen? And what does it mean when that trust suddenly seems to disappear? 1. It was never just calmness. Most people assume it's simple. Some chickens are docile. She's just relaxed by nature. But here's the thing. Being lifted off the ground and restrained is, from a prey animal's biological perspective, one of the most threatening experiences possible. In the wild, the moment a bird's feet leave the ground and its body is immobilized is, almost without exception, the final moment before a predator kill. That association isn't learned. It's wired into the nervous system at a level deeper than individual experience. So when your hen goes still in your arms instead of thrashing, screaming, or fighting to escape, she's not simply being cooperative. She's actively suppressing one of the strongest survival reflexes a prey animal possesses. If calmness was just temperament, every hen of a docile breed would tolerate handling equally well from any person on day one. They don't. The stillness is specific to you, and that specificity is the entire story. Research in applied ethology has shown that the degree to which an animal suppresses its flight or struggle response during restraint correlates directly with the strength of its trust bond with the handler, not with general temperament alone. When she stops fighting in your hands, her body is making an active calculation, second by second, that you are safe enough to override instinct for. And by the way, if she ever suddenly starts struggling with you when she previously didn't, don't dismiss that as a bad mood. We'll get into exactly what that shift means before the end. 2. Her heart rate is telling the real story. Have you ever felt how fast your hen's heart beats when you first pick her up, even when she's not struggling? That rapid pulse against your hands is information, and it's more honest than her stillness might suggest at first. Here's what most people don't realize. A bird's heart rate is one of the most reliable physiological indicators of internal stress, and it responds almost instantly to perceived threat, often before any visible behavioral change occurs. Studies measuring cardiac response in handled poultry have found that heart rate spikes significantly at the moment of capture and restraint, even in birds that show no outward struggle. What matters is what happens next. In a hen with a strong trust bond to her handler, that elevated heart rate begins descending within a relatively short window, often settling toward a calmer baseline as the handling continues, particularly when the handler is someone familiar and the hold is gentle and predictable. In a hen without that bond, the elevated heart rate tends to persist or even climb, regardless of how still she appears on the outside. Stillness without an accompanying physiological calm down is a freeze response, not trust. The two can look identical from the outside while being entirely different experiences on the inside. This is part of why two people can hold the exact same chicken with visibly identical stillness, and only one of them is actually being trusted. 3. Tucking her head is a specific, deliberate signal. Does your hen tuck her head against your arm or chest when you hold her, sometimes closing her eyes? That posture is not random relaxation. It's one of the clearest trust signals in the chicken behavioral repertoire. A chicken's vision is built almost entirely around threat detection. Her eyes are positioned to maximize peripheral awareness, scanning for predators from nearly every angle simultaneously. Voluntarily reducing that field of vision by tucking her head down or closing her eyes while in a vulnerable, restrained position means temporarily giving up her primary defense system. Research into avian behavior under handling conditions has identified head tucking and eye closing during restraint as strong indicators of what researchers describe as a parasympathetic shift, the nervous system transitioning out of high alert sympathetic activation and into a genuinely relaxed state. This isn't a bird that has simply stopped resisting. It's a bird whose entire physiological system has downshifted because it has assessed the immediate situation is safe enough to do so. When your hen does this in your arms, she's not just permitting the hold, she's actively participating in her own relaxation, which is a far more demanding biological act than passive stillness. And if this is changing how you think about the moments your hen settles into your arms, hit that like and subscribe. It helps us reach more keepers who want to understand what their flock is actually communicating through behavior like this. 4. The position of her wings tells you how far she's let go. When you hold her, are her wings pressed tightly against her body, or do they hang loosely, even slightly away from her sides? This detail is easy to miss, but it's one of the more precise indicators available. Tightly pressed wings during handling often indicate a bird who is tolerating a situation rather than fully relaxed within it. The wing muscles remain primed, ready for the explosive launch a chicken would use to escape a predator's grip. That readiness takes energy to maintain, and a bird sustaining it throughout a hold is, on some level, still preparing for the possibility that she'll need to fight free. Loose, slightly slack wings during a hold indicate the opposite. The launch readiness has been switched off. Veterinary behaviorists who study handling stress in poultry note that muscular tension patterns during restraint are one of the more reliable physical correlates of an animal's subjective experience of the interaction, often more reliable than surface-level behavior like simple stillness. A hen who has let her wing muscles go slack in your hold has made a deeper concession than a hen who is merely not flapping. She's told her own body it doesn't need to be ready. 5. She doesn't extend this to everyone, and that's the point. Have you noticed your hen tolerates being held by you, but reacts very differently when a stranger or even another familiar person tries the same thing? That inconsistency isn't confusion on her part, it's precision. Chickens are capable of individual human recognition, and that recognition extends into how they calibrate their handling response. A hen doesn't generalize trust across all humans equally. She builds it, person by person, based on accumulated experience of how each individual has handled her, how predictable that person's movements are, and whether previous interactions with them have ended safely. Research into human-animal interaction in poultry has found that hens habituated to calm, consistent handling by one specific person frequently show measurably different physiological and behavioral stress responses when handled by an unfamiliar individual using identical technique. The skill of the hold matters, but the relationship matters more. If your hen settles for you and resists someone else doing the exact same thing the exact same way, that's not a flaw in your technique transferring poorly. That's evidence the trust was never about technique alone. It was about you specifically. 6. What it cost her to let you trim a nail or check a wound. Have you noticed your hen tolerates something actively uncomfortable while in your arms? A nail trim, a wound check, an application of ointment, with far less protest than you'd expect. That tolerance is built on everything described above, stacked even higher. Allowing a painful or uncomfortable procedure while restrained requires a hen to simultaneously suppress the flight instinct, the struggle instinct, and the instinct to vocalize distress in a way that might draw predator attention in the wild. Veterinary behavior literature notes that animals who have an established trust relationship with a handler show measurably reduced struggle and vocalization during mildly aversive procedures compared to animals without that established relationship, even when the procedure itself is identical. This is one of the most practically valuable outcomes of the trust you've built. A hen who tolerates necessary, mildly uncomfortable handling without significant distress is a hen for whom basic health checks, wound care, and early problem detection become dramatically easier and less stressful for both of you. The calm she shows you in low-stakes moments is the same calm that becomes essential in the moments that actually matter. She let go of her oldest instinct to be still in your hands. That was never small. It shouldn't be small to you either. 7. When the trust shifts, listen to it. What does it mean when a hen who used to settle calmly in your arms suddenly starts struggling, even with you, even using the same hold you always used? This is what I mentioned at the beginning, and it's worth taking seriously rather than attributing to a passing mood. A sudden change in handling tolerance, particularly a regression from calm to resistant, is one of the more reliable indicators that something has shifted in either her physical state or her perception of safety. Sometimes the cause is physical. Pain in a specific area can make a hen resist being held in a way that previously didn't bother her, particularly if the typical hold puts pressure near the affected site. A hen who suddenly struggles against a hold she's tolerated for months is worth a closer physical check, looking for tenderness, swelling, or injury near where she's typically supported. Sometimes the cause is environmental or experiential. A recent negative handling experience, even one that seemed minor to you, a scare during a previous hold, or a broader increase in her overall stress levels from flock dynamics or environmental changes, can temporarily raise her baseline vigilance and make her less willing to suppress instinct, even with someone she trusts. The trust you've built isn't a permanent switch. It's a relationship that responds to her current state, the same way any trust does. When she gives it to you, she's overriding millions of years of survival programming to do it. When that becomes harder for her, it's not a step backward. It's information, the same way the trust itself was information all along. When your chicken lets you hold her without fighting, do you actually know what that actually means? Yes, it's sweet, but behind that stillness in your arms, there's something most backyard keepers completely overlook. It's one of the most physiologically demanding acts of trust a chicken can offer you. And if you've been treating it as just a calm moment, which most people do, you've been missing what her body had to override to get there. Let's start with what that stillness really cost her.